Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Rydell, actor and now podcast host, I guess. That guy you've seen on a million TV shows and movies, but you still do not know my name.
And I'm David Allen Bache, actor and sometimes producer. And you also recognize me from lots of films and TV shows, but you probably couldn't name one of them right now if I paid you to.
The two of us and our guests are going to let you in on some secrets on how to make it as an actor and share some private stories from the many movies and TV shows that we've worked on.
That's right. We're going to interview a special guest each week, and we'll get their best advice and wisdom for you about how to break into this business and how to stay in it. And yes, again, there will be stories, stories, stories. So, let's get to it.
This is Confessions of a Working Actor.
Well, Chris, we're back for another episode.
Here we are, David.
You know, we've gotten some good reviews, I think.
That's what I've heard.
I don't really read reviews, but someone told me today, like, you got great reviews. And
No, because if you read the good ones and you believe them, you have to believe the bad ones too.
That's true. I never, especially, I mean, every once in a while I read reviews of TV shows or films, but stage stuff, I absolutely refuse to read the reviews. And I went so far once as to say, if you're going to post the reviews in the front of the theater to get people in, I need to come in the back. Because I will be fundamentally incapable of not reading them. I will be so desperate for approval that I will want to read them. And I literally, this was at the Union Square Theater, I had to go in the back door.
It's amazing how you're just walking on cloud nine when there's a great review, you know? And you're like, oh man, I really am good. and then you're like, wait a second, maybe I should...
Don't read that bad one, though, because that's the thing. You, like you said, you got to believe that one, too. And I tell people, you know, if someone asks me, like, you know, do you read your reviews? Or my advice is don't read the reviews at all, because even if they say something good, that sticks in your head, you know? Even if they say, like, well, the way Bache puts his hat on at the beginning of Act 2 is delightful, or something, right? And they sometimes do that. They say this is a brilliant scene, and the way he turns to the audience and it's so vulnerable. But then I'm fucked because that's all I'm thinking about in that moment is like, is this going to be as good as the reviewer thought it was that night that I did it and didn't know they were thinking it?
Right. And then somebody says, God, he puts his hat on the same way each time.
I know, exactly. Come on. Well, we're going to ask our this week's guest a little bit about that because he's a Broadway guy.
That's what I read.
I mean, lots of film
guy.
and TV too, but a wonderful, brilliant, up-and-coming actor. And I did a terrible horror movie with him a while back, but that's not his claim to fame, believe me. He's been on shows like Blue Bloods, FBI, Daredevil, Prodigal Son, lots of other stuff.
Yeah, and like we said, he's a serious Broadway guy, right? He's been in plays, The Ferryman, Torch Song, Marvin's Room, and many more, right? So let's welcome Jack DiFalco.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Jack.
Jack, how are you?
I'm so happy to be here. This is so cool. I love this.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my honor.
And you dressed up. Nobody can see you, but I just want to say you have on a Depeche Mode T-shirt, which, you know, we're both digging. We're digging.
Oh,
very, very cool.
Totally.
I like
Gotta
that.
Gotta represent. Have to look good for this.
Now, Jack, we're talking to you, if I'm not mistaken, out of town, right? I know you live in New York, but are you, in fact, in an out-of-town tryout for a show right now before it comes to New York? Tell us about what is it? That's Sing Street, yeah?
Yeah, Sing Street. It's the musical. It was going to come to Broadway pre-COVID, and then everything got shut down because of COVID. And now we're over here in Boston doing it until, we just got extended, so we're going till October 9th. And then the goal is to get it back up in Broadway before the Tony season.
Wow, congratulations.
So yeah, it's been great. Thank you. Yeah.
Cool.
It's the first musical I've ever done in my entire life. If you want to call it that, it's kind of hard to place where it falls on the spectrum between play and musical, just because it has so many elements of a play. I mean, the first 30 minutes is speaking and dialogue and setting you up, and then the singing is all played by a live band and by the cast on stage. So the only music that's performed is by the actual actors. So it's really cool. It's really cool.
And give us sort of the one sentence or two sentence about what the show's about.
It's about love. No, it's yeah. Let me hit my talking points. No, it's about a boy who starts a band to impress a girl in 80s Dublin during the MTV new wave era of music. So it's a lot of like punk, rock, Depeche Mode. It's cool. It's special. It's very special.
Are you the boy?
I am not the boy. No, I'm always the antagonist.
He's the baddie.
Love being the antagonist. Yeah, come on. You see the shaved head? I mean, your listeners can't see it, but I've got this gorgeous buzz cut going on right now.
Will
You
there
got
be
a great widow's peak. You got a great widow's peak.
He does, doesn't he? I know. Will there be a Scottish accent?
Not Scottish. It's Dublin, Ireland. So I did.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Oh, Dublin. Yeah, I would have said that.
No, yeah.
I would have known which one to do. Is it?
What are you talking about?
Ah, there it is. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's easy to slip right back into after doing it.
All right,
8 shows a week. And we're just coming out of a 6-show weekend, 10-show week. So it's been long.
We're honored. We're honored that you're here. You should be asleep, even though it's the middle of the day.
I slept till 2:30.
Perfect. There you go. An actor's life, ladies and gentlemen. That's beautiful.
That's right. Confession. There's the first confession.
Is the extension a happy thing? It's not like, we need another week to really work out the kinks, or it's like, hey, this is going really well. We're going to give it one more week, and then. Yeah.
I mean, the problem we ran into is we sold out really, really quick.
There you go.
And we've been getting really great reviews. We have a lot of people who keep coming back. It's been hard getting even my friends and family just using my comps, them tickets to come see it. But so we got extended because it's doing well. I'm very grateful. It's a privilege. Yeah.
Fantastic. Tell us about some of the other Broadway things you've done. There's some great shows in there, and how did that come to be? We always ask our guests how they got started, so maybe that's the way in here is like, how did you get started, and how does that tie into what you ended up on Broadway?
So if you want to start way back, how I got started in this whole thing, I grew up in the foster care system. I bounced around a lot as a kid, and my story is it's luck meets drive. I happened to be in a TV and film class that my friend made me do. And I only got to show up for one of the classes because I was offered a free class. I couldn't pay for it. And the person who ended up being my manager happened to pass by the class, looked right, recognized the person who was running it because it was his assistant about 10 years prior at APA. And so he came in, started talking to him as a class of like 45 kids and adults. And he just like, yeah, I guess I can sit down and give some notes to your students, yada, yada, yada. And then me and the manager started talking. Matthew is his name. And he brought me auditions. He signed me almost immediately. I was 17. We waited till I was 18 so that I was out of the whole system and that kind of stuff. But I was still auditioning. And then I was shopping for colleges. Very difficult to do when you don't have any money. And, you want to become an actor, which is, normally just more debt. So it was kind of serendipitous because I was shopping for colleges and a role landed on my plate, which was in Denver. It was a show called Lord of the Flies. And I did this years and years and years ago. They made me do an RP British accent. And then I did that for about 5 months. And then I bopped over to New York. And I happened to, probably a couple months after that, book my first off-Broadway show called Mercury Fur, which was originally supposed to be a Cockney British accent type of thing. And that's kind of my specialty, playing troubled youth. And it ended up getting turned into like the New York version because nobody understood half the things we were saying and the places we were referencing. And then from that, I booked my agents, my glorious agents. Shout out to Artists and Reps. They have great taste and work ethic. And they got me a guest spot on Blue Bloods, yada, yada, yada. And then I was doing another off-Broadway show called Yen after a couple little movie things and like indie films, get co-stars, guest spots, yada, yada. And I took the role, and it was more or less an understudy, but I had set performances that I had to go on for because I had to take over for a role. It was like a 4-person show. It was me, Lucas Hedges, Ari Grainer, and Stefania Levy Owen, and Justice Smith, which is who I ended up taking over the role for because he as you do, go have to shoot Jurassic World 87.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great cast.
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. And then I ended up taking the role over from Justice. And in this whole process, if we're getting back to Broadway, I was auditioning for the show called Marvin's Room, which was about a 6-month process. I was going head to head with like everybody from LA to New York. Even they were shopping around in London for the roundabout. And I was on. We invited the director, and she actually happened to show up. And after that, I had my final audition the next day. And it certainly didn't hurt that she got to see me do my thing, other than just what I was presenting in the room. And then that same day, I got the offer for my first ever Broadway show. And of course, I cried, I vomited, I was ecstatic. It was cool, but it's one of those things where stars kind of have to align for it to happen. And I'm very grateful. And that was how I got my first Broadway. Yeah.
What an amazing journey.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's I'm forever grateful.
And you had a passion for acting as a young kid, or really was it just that TV and acting, that first class that you had taken kind of gave you the spark? Or was there one moment that you knew, even at the very beginning, like, I have to be a part of this? And if there was, like, what was it? Was it a scene? Was it a show?
What that was?
Oh, I do. I remember, because it was, my father passed away when I was young, and the school was like, hey, we need to get him involved in some sort of arts, something to express himself, something to do. And it was my 5th grade musical. You had to wait till you're in 5th grade to audition for this thing. And I did it. It was called The Pied Piper, and I booked The Pied Piper.
Of course you did.
Which is funny, because throughout school, high school, and everything, I never played the lead. Like, I was never the lead. I was always ensemble. I was always like the supporting blah, blah, blah. But this one, I got The Pied Piper, and I remember being on stage, and I had 104 fever, on the edge of vomiting. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Bam. And after that, I got into any school play or musical, any community theater play or musical. Even when I was in the foster home, I had a gorgeous social worker. Her name is Michaela. Never will know her last name, because that's all secretive. But she would drive me from the foster home to rehearsals. And make sure that I could keep doing it. It was really, really cool. But I remember being in 5th grade and standing on that stage, sweating and on the edge of vomiting in front of all my classmates, and being like, "Wow, this is cool."
That's the dream right there. I've felt the same. I felt the same way in front of 10,000 people. Listen, believe me, that's the dream. Yeah. I just want to tell you something before we get to the next question. I just want to tell you something. My father died when I was 7. Had a heart attack. It was very sudden. And my elementary school guidance counselor was like, "Holy shit, we got to do something with this kid. He's angry. He's lost. We got to keep him busy." And she said, Roberta was her name. And I don't remember her last name. And she said, "You should audition for the school musical. It's Tom Sawyer." And I was a kind of a wayward, a little bit of a wayward youth at that time. So they were like, Tom Sawyer is kind of a wayward youth. He talks all his friends into painting the fence for him. And they cast me as Tom Sawyer, and I stepped foot on that stage, and people cheered, and I was like, that's the approval I've been waiting for.
Yeah,
and
it's
really interesting. Yeah, that's a really. I just wanted to mention that small similarity.
Wow, that is such a cool parallel. That's so weird. That's really incredible.
Go figure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's incredible. Wow. I mean, sometimes that's what it takes. Once you step out on that stage, it's really hard to not ever seek that feeling again.
So, Jack, do you want to tell us about any of your films? How about something about Goldfinch?
Goldfinch was really cool. That one kind of fell on my lap. I don't remember what I was doing at the time. I think it was Torch Song off Broadway. But they gifted me the opportunity to just be like a quick little day player. I came on, I shot my scenes. Nicole Kidman got to play my mother. And
hang on.
Yeah, that's you can't just roll over that.
Yeah. Let's hear that part again. We say that again in case anybody listening was like, wait, what did he say?
Nicole Kidman played my mother.
All right, there we go.
It was unreal. It was really cool. John Crowley. And, another weird coincidence, John Crowley was the director of that, but the set designer and the costume designer for the Sing Street that I'm doing is his brother, which I never knew that he had a brother that was also in the business. But anyway, back to Nicole, my mother. She was great. I mean, if you want to talk about a technically perfect actress who knows where the camera is and how little to move your face to draw up the biggest, I guess, reaction. That is her, but she also knows how to be comfortable. I mean, she would be in full like gown and get up, and then underneath the table, she'd be wearing soft little Uggs. And like, you know, where you would assume she's in like heels or something, but she couldn't have been more nice. She is a gift. I mean, I haven't heard anything ever bad about her, and getting to work with her and watch her display all of the years of work and tools that she's acquired throughout her career in those scenes was mind blowing, and it was breathtaking. It was cool to see. It's cool to see that.
And the comfortable shoes. That's not the first time we've heard that, right, Chris? We had an acting couple on, Jenny Mudge and Chris Coffey, and we asked Jenny for her best piece of advice, and it was always wear comfortable shoes.
Wear comfortable shoes.
That's right. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I always prided myself as being able to, someone who could talk to women. And I think that my dad had, you know, as a young boy, my parents were divorced, and my dad would go to the Playboy Mansion. He would drag me up there as a young, like 8-year-old, and I'd be like, you know, playing pinball with the girls, you know, and I was like 8 years old. But long story short, my friend Billy Zane goes to do this movie, you know, he's basically like living on my couch. His sister lives in the back of my building, and he's like, Chris, I got this movie in Australia. I'm going to Australia to make this movie Dead Calm. I was like, okay, great, Billy, congratulations. And he comes back with a wife. Then they're going to get married. And at the wedding, it's like up in Hollywood, this great apartment in the rain, is the most beautiful red-haired girl I'd ever seen in my life. And I just couldn't even get myself to go say, I couldn't even say hi. I was just like, I don't know what to say. Exactly. And it was her, you know, and I hadn't seen the film or anything, you know, at that time. And I was like, who is this girl at your wedding, man?
Wow.
Yeah. But that was my only, you know, experience with her.
Yeah. I wish you got the chance to speak with her, because she is so unbelievably smart and kind. She's one of those presences on set where it kind of makes everybody feel calm. It's not like you're in the presence of greatness. You know, you're gifted a role or a scene, and you just want to chomp at the bit, and it's like, oh, this is all I ever wanted to do is work with this person. I mean, I loved her in everything that I've ever seen, but just being there with her and getting to talk to her and just have like small talk and talk about the movie itself was very wonderful.
And you did the film Bully, which was two actors who are very similar to Nicole Kidman, Danny Trejo and Vincent Pastore, right?
Yeah, exactly. The closest.
Yes, I did. You know, and the funniest thing is me, Danny, my buddy Tucker were all the leads of it. I played the bully. It was a movie called Bully. And I met Danny maybe once, and it was during a casting. I mean, we hit it off. He's a really great guy.
A sweet guy.
But that is kind of the funny thing about movies, is that you can be a lead of something with somebody else and never meet them. Which is why I love theater, is you're forced to interact with everybody. Yeah.
What's something that you wish you'd known when you started that you now know? Maybe some small piece of advice that our young actors or even experienced actors would love to hear.
Yeah, it's a long journey. Art, you think, you know, I was a big coming to terms with me. My dream was always to be on Broadway. I wanted to be a Broadway star. I wanted to do that, and that was my ultimate goal for a very long time. And then it was a weird thing once I had done it to readjust and figure out what I wanted to do after that. It is attainable. It's not unattainable if you show up, if you do your work, if you're persistent and you understand that rejection is a part of the job and it's 9 times out of 10 what you're going to receive, and to expect to never be satisfied, I guess, is something that I had to come to terms with thinking, oh, once I do a movie, like this is all I ever needed to do. Or once I do a Broadway play, this is all I ever wanted to do. It's a never ending love or string that you keep pulling, and you keep adding things to your belt, and you realize that you need to keep developing goals and understanding the business that you're getting into, because art is ever changing. I mean, our business changes and has changed. I mean, if you look at COVID, from before COVID and now COVID, everything changes. And I think if you yearn for the rejection and you just go in and you do your work and you stop trying to book things, that is something that is a powerful lesson that I had to learn. Your job as an actor is to show up and present something. It's not to book something. And that's where you should find your love in it. And the love shouldn't be coming from just the attaining what you think is going to make you the most happy. And you realize, hey, I get to just do this, and I get to present, and I get to create this. That is where the artist lives, at least for me.
Wow, that's great. Great advice.
That's really, yeah.
I love to hear that. Go ahead, David. I apologize.
No, I was just going to say, the flip side of that is I want to hear the answer to this question, which is you come out of the foster system, you kind of get, quote, I'm doing air quotes, everyone, you get discovered in the foster system, right? And you wind up on Broadway, and your career is off to an amazing start. And then here you are, your star is rising. But were there times that you said, I got to chuck this all, that never mind this never ending string, I don't want to pull on it anymore, there's too much rejection, I want out?
Yeah. Oh, every time I want something, I mean, I'm sure you've encountered this, where you get really attached to a role, and you've gone through so many auditions, and you've learned all these damn sides, and they're essentially making you put a short film on, especially now with the having to produce, edit, direct, light, costume yourself, direct yourself, all of these things. And you're doing all of this work, and you emotionally invest yourself, you physically invest yourself with your time and your patience. And then you get to the last end. And this literally just happened to me, where you're just like, what the fuck is this all for? Why did I do all this shit? Look at my headshot. Do I look good enough? I'm a professional actor. Fucking hire me. If that's not what's working, then fuck you. But, it's unrealistic. And it is. I mean, this is one of those careers. Rejection is a hard thing. When you get rejected in any form of your life, it is something hard to come to terms with. But I've been there. I've reached that. I think it's a natural part of the process to just want to give up, but it's equally important to not, and just to keep persisting, because throughout our careers, people will give up. People will stop persisting. Those people that you think you're going to be competing head to head with for the rest of your life, some of them are going to drop out. Some of them are going to want to become producers. Some of them are going to want to, So if it's truly what you love, I think just showing up, doing the best you can in that moment is super important.
Well, we ask, all our guests their worst audition experience. Your worst audition story, could you give it to us?
Oh God. This is it's
a safe space, Jack. It's a safe space.
No, I know. So I made the mistake of the night before a big audition to take an edible. And I thought that was going to be, I'll relax myself. I'll go to sleep. I'll wake up fresh, ready to go. My lines are going to be in my head.
I like where this is going.
Little did I know it was like a 400 milligram edible. And I'll tell you, it put me right to sleep. But when I woke up...
Is that a lot? Is that a lot?
Usually, even like your average smoker, and I only know this because I'm in Boston right now. I've been to the dispensary. Is probably around 3 or 5 milligrams will get you stoned or sufficiently high. And I was on 400 milligrams of that.
Whoa.
So when I woke up, and for the entire day into the next day, I was absolutely baked out of my mind. Now, unfortunately, that day I had an audition for a CBS show called Madam Secretary.
No.
And it was with Mark Sachs, and I'm sure everybody's dealt with Mark Sachs, and before COVID, where he cattle calls and he brings in like everybody at the same time. And God, it was the most, and like, that's the worst fucking environment when you have things on the line and you're surrounded by people and you're not in a calm, relaxing environment. That is not where you want to be stoned during.
Never mind the fact that you're super high. All right, what happened?
Right.
What happened?
So I tried to push it. I kept pushing the audition later and later, but you know how he has the callbacks the same days. And so I pushed it. I got it all the way back to 1 because I knew at 1:30 was the callbacks. And I get in there and it's me and like 5 other people who looked identical to me. And I go into the audition room and luckily Mark has just seen a show of mine and I'm trying to play it really cool. I was like, well, if I can't beat Jack, then I guess I'll just be quiet. So I was just like, okay. I go in there. I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? And he was like, oh, I just seen your show. I think it was Torch Song. I don't know if it was Broadway or off Broadway. And he's like, oh, it was so great. And he kept trying to talk to me. And as he was talking to me and I was just focusing on just staying sane, I sit down in the seat and I'm like prepping my sides. I got my sides and I'm like, oh yeah. Thank you so much. It's so great. And he talks to me. It was like a school shooter thing, of course, long, like 2-page monologue. And I'm sitting in the seat ready to prep. And I'm like, okay. He's like, are you ready? And I'm like, okay, let's go. And I just dropped into character. At least I tried to. And then he goes, actually, we're going to shoot it over here. And I looked up and I realized I was on the opposite side of the room from where the camera and the backdrop and the mics and everything was. And I was like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ. I was like, oh, yeah. No, that was on purpose. So I get over there and I'm already stunning myself. And I'm sitting in this chair. And I don't know if you guys have ever, and I'm sure other actors who are listening to this, have had the moment where they start their line and then you just go blank. And you can't remember anything that you were supposed to say, no matter how much you prepped it, how many performances you've had, the tape gets jumbled and you just lose your place. And that's what happened to me. So here I am stoned out of my mind in front of Mark Sachs and his assistant on camera, sweating to death because I'm so fucking nervous and scared. And I'm riffing a monologue about a school shooting that I just did.
Oh, man.
Let me tell you, it did not go well. I did about 4 separate takes of it every time I forgot the lines. And I said, he's like, do you want to do it again? I said, no, that's as good as it's going to get. And I got up.
That was the best thing you did that day.
Yes, I know. I shouldn't have even showed up, but I was eager, It's my big thing. I'm like, at least you show up. But
all right. Well, so let that be a lesson to the other actors out there.
Don't do edibles before.
So whatever it is you need to do to relax and get some sleep, just, check your dosages. Just check your dosages.
I don't know what's happening with my computer over here, but I just caught the end of that, and I had a terrible experience happen to me. I'd graduated from, college, at Purchase studying theater, and I went to go take an animation class.
Yeah.
And they gave us these like a character on just a drawn character on a piece of paper, and you had to go up in front of the class and do a character for this. And the guy, I did it, and the guy at the end said, maybe you should go back and take some more acting classes in front of everybody. I was crushed.
Yeah, but it's usually those things that drive you. At least for me. Mm-hmm. I've always felt like it was the people who doubted me or the people who were like, oh, no, you're never going to do this. Or there's no way that's going to happen, where you kind of find the energy or the determination to prove somebody wrong.
Funny you should mention that.
I do a fair amount of voiceovers here and there. Well, and this morning I had 2 characters to do for a video game, and I'm in here sweating, and I'm like, I'd rather just be me, It's just much easier for me to just do Chris's voice, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't. But to these people that can do, 40 different voices.
Yeah.
I did a commercial one time where a guy, I went in, it was just like a radio spot. I was supposed to be shooting hoops at making a basket from the free throw line. And they brought me in, and then the other guy came in and he did 5 different people. He did 5 different voices and was getting paid 5 scale
Yeah, that's like Phil Lamar, right? When Phil came on, he did a spot-on impression of John Travolta. You know, he's the guy who does Samurai Jack and all these other voices.
God.
Well, we're going to end on a positive note. You gave us some things to think about already, some really good advice. But if you had to distill it down, we always end asking our guests, what's your best piece of advice? Something somebody shared with you early on, somebody meaningful to you, something you learned the hard way, whatever it is, something you want to share, and distill it down into, a couple words, or one sentence, one idea. What do you want to tell us?
If you love it, never stop doing it, regardless. That's pretty much it. I mean, I've loved this job. I've loved, like I said, since 5th grade. I knew I never wanted to stop doing it. And there are times in my career in which it's hard. It's hard to keep loving, or it's hard to persist and show up and give your all the time, even with the amount of auditions you get and the amount of rejection you get. But I've always come back to the same thing, where that is, I wouldn't rather be doing anything else. Those bookings or those tiny times of validation to get on set is enough. And it is there. You will book, but you have to show up, and you have to keep persisting, and you have to persist longer and harder and outwork everybody else that you're going up against, because that's where the magic happens, baby.
Yeah, there it is.
I love it.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be one sentence, but
no, that's great.
It was a good long sentence. It was a run-on sentence, but there was a lot of great stuff in there.
Yeah, good.
For sure. That's great. Well, Jack, we wish you so much luck with Sing Street. Anybody listening on the podcast, just you Google that and find out when it's coming to Broadway, and check Jack out. I've worked with him. I can attest to the fact that he's a wonderful actor. So you'll be in for a treat. The show sounds really cool, by the way. I'm kind of psyched to see it.
Thanks.
And a great guest,
by
the way.
Thank you. You guys are two great hosts. This has been so much fun.
We're just figuring it out as we go along. We don't.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, that's true. Especially as actors. You did say one thing I want to say. I just want to wrap up with this. When we talk to actors about if they ever want to give up, when did you want to give up? Did you ever feel that way? All the actors we've talked to, everybody said yes, of course. Some say twice a day. Some say once a week. Some say yes, of course. Right. So. And then when we ask about advice, those best pieces of advice often hinge on just keep going. It's hard. There's rejection, but keep going. Be yourself, right? A lot of great things. And I realized that a few people have said to me, I heard the podcast, and some of them are actors and they got it right away. And Chris and I have a lot of friends that are actors. You have a lot of friends that are actors and producers, directors. Those folks are going to get it. But these two people that said, I really like the podcast, I found it very interesting, were not actors at all. They weren't even in the field of entertainment. And they weren't even related to me. And they said they liked it. And that's really interesting. I think people who hear this are like, well, geez, it's hard. Like everybody keeps saying how, geez, you got to stick with it, or there's rejection, or it's, and I think it's cool that even people not in the business are listening, and they're recognizing a little bit about what actors go through and what the roller coaster ride is.
Yeah.
This is good to hear. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm glad there are people out there that are listening to it that aren't actors.
Yeah, I think both our fans are really excited about the podcast.
Yeah. You can add a third. I'll be your third fan.
All right.
I'll tune in every week.
Well, thank you again, Jack, and all the best to you, man.
Thank you, guys. It was such a pleasure.
Jack DiFalco, everybody.
Enjoyed having you.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Well, it's been another great 20 minutes with you, my friend.
And you too, brother. It's been fun.
Yeah, that was great.
Cool. I thought that was awesome. All right, star that.
That was terrific.
And we got another great guest coming up next week, so be sure to tune in again to Confessions of a Working Actor.